Hello, and thanks for watching the Friends the Farm lecture series. My name is Candace Hawes, and I want to thank all of our viewers and customers for joining us from the pharmacy, the pottery, and the Natural Healing Center, as well as all of our friends joining us from around the world. I'm excited for our topic today and for us to welcome back Lisa Snyder, one of our favorite guest speakers returning. Make sure that you check out our other episodes with her on our YouTube page. We've had her on for other great episodes, including Cannabis and Creativity and Discovering the Art of Cannabis Accessories, both available on our YouTube page. When you're on our YouTube page, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future content. Today, we're happy to have her back to talk about voting with your dollar and supporting cannabis brands and companies with a purpose. Those that participate in social responsibility campaigns, and those that consumers should be aware of when making their purchasing decisions. Lisa Snyder is the co founder of Tokeativity, the global feminist community for active cannabis consumers and culture, and also the founder of LI Digital. After losing both her parents to cancer in her 20s, Lisa turned her attention to women's liberation through cannabis normalization with a feminist twist and launched Tokeativity in January 2017. She's a feminist, a business advisor, a digital artist, and plant medicine advocate with over 25 years of digital strategy experience. She passionately supports the self healing revolution through consumption, plant medicine advocacy, and digital liberation. She's been recognized for her work in Forbes, Rolling Stone, Condé Nast Traveler, and Yahoo Finance, amongst others. Amazing. Lisa is simply amazing. I love working with her. She's a great guest speaker. We've done, like I said, a couple webinars so far, and I always love having her on here with me. She's put something together really great for us today, which is we're going to talk about voting with your dollar, buying with a purpose. It's so important that, like I said, as cannabis consumers, there's so many brands on the shelves nowadays, and a lot of time consumers don't really get to hear a lot about the backstory. And, there's 40 different flower brands on the shelves, and sometimes they don't know like which ones are women owned, which ones, are participating in social responsibility, which ones are, giving back to the community. And so I thought it was really important that we really talk about, how important it really is for consumers to think about, their purchasing decisions and how that really, um, affects, our overall society, And so thank you so much, Lisa, for coming today and to speak about this.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's so fun to be here with you.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick things off. It is voting day across the country in different states. There's some important stuff happening, including some abortion laws. I'm not sure about which cannabis laws are up for voting. I don't know if you know anything about that. You mentioned at the beginning, so I'm curious if you know.
I'll pull it up and put it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really interesting. Welcome those who are watching live and those who are going to be watching later. Shout out to Eileen, who is in Connecticut. She is, I was like, what are you smoking on? And she was like, actually, I have a tincture blend, a CBG and CBD heavy indica. So shout out to you and shout out to Connecticut and Eileen. So, Candace already introduced me. I don't need to really introduce myself again, but I do live in Portland, Oregon. I'm originally from New Jersey and an East Coaster, although this is my 10-year anniversary as a West Coaster. And it's just been such a cool thing to watch the cannabis movement kind of really rise to the top. And what happens along the way as the cannabis revolution is happening is that all these other brands are kind of popping up. And we'll get to some brand conversations and sort of like, how do you decide which ones you want to buy based on your values? So we're going to actually kick things off and talk about values. This is a little bit about Tokeativity. We're a global community of plant medicine advocates that's rooted in feminism. And we work as a collective to modernize consumption culture through interactive experiences. We've hosted over 350 consumption events across the globe since 2017. And it's been so fun over the years to do all kinds of really interesting things. So let's get to it. What does it mean to vote with your dollar? If you're watching live, let me know in the chat what you think it means to vote with your dollar, or how do you vote with your dollar, or what kind of questions you have around voting with your dollar. So I had a lot of time to think about this as I was preparing, and really thinking about like, what does it mean to vote with your dollar? So, you know, consumers like yourselves like have the power, and like us, we have the power to influence businesses and industries along with the economy through our purchasing decisions. We might just be like one person, and we're kind of thinking, how can I even be just one person making a difference? But a collective of people making a difference and making buying choices can really, really be super powerful. It's really about your core values, and we're going to talk about values in just a little bit. It's like, how do you figure out what your values are in really concise ways? We know how they might feel, but what does it really mean, and how do we really get there when making purchases? So, you know, you're really making a conscious choice about the products and services you buy based on your values and your beliefs. I'm a big supporter of shopping local, and I hope you all are too. The local businesses really need our support, and it's really, really hard for local businesses to compete with big businesses who have really massive marketing budgets and can do all this fancy stuff, where small business owners really just kind of have what they have and hope that you support them. Of course, if it aligns with your values and your beliefs. So, you know, this really, really means that you support businesses and practices that align with your ethical and environmental or social preferences, and in contrast, avoiding or reducing support for those who do not. Try not to like talk in the negative here, but that's also acknowledging when you do support one thing, you're not supporting something else. And sometimes where it might be motivated because we don't want to support like a big, you know, let's just say, for example, Walmart or something like that. Mm-hmm. If you feel like that doesn't align with your values, you know, that's like, what do you want to support then if you clearly don't want to support that? So what are you supporting? It kind of is both sides of the coin when we're thinking about it. So the key aspects of voting with your dollar, first of all, is really about consumer influence. So by choosing to buy from or boycott certain businesses, you can directly impact their success and profitability. Mm-hmm. And this influence can really encourage companies to adopt practices and products to meet their consumer demands. So if you're buying a lot of one thing, that says to the company, hey, our consumers really like this, or they really support it. But when they notice that there's a lack of purchasing around those particular things, they make different choices because they notice that, hey, there are people who are not buying this, whether they put more energy into trying to get people to buy it, or they take it off the shelves, or what have you. It's really actually where our power lies. And every dollar that we spend is a choice. Everything we do. Now, I know that you're probably thinking like, oh my God, how could I possibly, sounds exhausting, like trying to make purchases like based on my feelings or like my beliefs or what have you. And nobody's perfect, and we're all gonna like, you know, have to make choices based on convenience or price, etc. But how can we make the most impact with our time here in this life? You know, one of them is by making conscious decisions, and that's really up to you how you roll that out into your life. So another key element is like aligning with your values, which we talked about. We're going to be talking a lot about values. You know, selecting products and services that reflect your personal values and your priorities. Is your priority sustainability? Is it social responsibility? Are you wanting to support fair labor practices? You know, animal welfare is a part of that too. And we're not just talking about cannabis choices, although tonight we'll be talking about it a little bit more. We're talking about all choices, you know, all choices where we take our dollar, give it to somebody else, and get something in return. This is related to cannabis businesses. Grow practices. What are their grow practices? Do you know about them? And we'll talk about how do you even like figure that out? You know, we don't know. Well, we're going to talk about it. Do these companies give back? Do they give back to things that you care about? These are things to consider in regards to being in alignment with your values. Other key aspects of voting with your dollars: supporting ethical practices. You know, you can use your purchasing power to endorse businesses that demonstrate ethical and responsible behaviors, you know, such as reducing their environmental footprint or supporting local communities. Again, do they give back? Are they conscious about what they're doing? They're all weaved into all of these ideas. It also can send a message, like we talked about just a few minutes ago. You know, being able to like make a choice with your dollars. Are you supporting it? Are you buying these particular products, or are you not? And that can really make and send a message. And we've seen this time and time again during periods of our, you know, different political movements, different time. There's a lot of focus on purchasing certain things, and there's like a lot of effort, you know, not purchasing certain things.
Yep. For instance, like right now, like there's people like doing a campaign against like Starbucks, you know, and some people are trying to encourage people like not to buy Starbucks because like their political beliefs or, you know, for
Right,
example.
right. And we're not saying you should or shouldn't buy
Correct.
from this or that or whatever. However, yeah, that's a good example because, I mean, Starbucks is a pretty big company, and they kind of get into a lot of hot water pretty quickly with certain
Yeah.
decisions that they make. And then therefore there's like a ripple effect. And I don't really know how that's affecting their bottom line, but I guarantee you all the people who are deciding to not buy that certain drink or even go there are having a direct effect on their and having an impact on how that particular company is making choices.
Yep.
So that's a really good example. Yeah, so this can really lead to market shifts and companies responding to consumer preferences and ethical concerns. Another key aspect of voting with your dollars is really promoting change. You know, if you're the type of person that is excited and motivated by changing things, you can actually make a lot of impact by, you know, purchasing things that are more eco-friendly, less plastic, more cardboard, and like asking and seeking out those kinds of products from wherever you're buying products from. It really means, you know, I'll give you an example here. I mean, I know that plastic is kind of crazy in cannabis, and there's every single and glass and all this stuff. It's like every single joint comes in a plastic container, you know, and then who's recycling those containers? And are people recycling those containers? My wife smokes a lot, and I mean, thank God for Ridwell, because they ended up collecting them on 420, all of the like plastic containers, the joint containers, the containers that you just kind of the pop tops and stuff like that. But without that, I guess there's another company here in Oregon called P3, but you have to go out of your way to like get these things recycled, and lots of people are littering or they're just throwing these things away. And some of the stuff is unavoidable, especially in the cannabis industry with all the packaging, which is kind of a bummer. But we can seek out recycling and like making choices around supporting, you know, a company like Ridwell. I don't know if they have that in your neighborhood, but they are across the country. And are you familiar with Ridwell?
They don't have it in California, no. But you can
They
also
don't.
buy like compostable packaging, like brands that have compostable packaging. If you don't, like you live in a state that doesn't have like recycling programs, or like in California, like our there's actually like a process to handle waste, and like consumers can't bring it back into the dispensary. There's no actual process for handling that. You have to throw it in the trash. So our only solution is to buy compostable packaging and for them to throw it in the trash and it breaks down, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, if this is inspiring, if this conversation is inspiring to you in some capacity, and you're thinking about even getting into the cannabis industry or any industry for that matter, putting your energy towards solutions that help the planet will not only make you feel good, but will actually have a major ripple effect in the industry, in your life, and other people's lives. But obviously, we just keep hitting this ceiling of not really having a solution to this, and a lot of plastic ends up in oceans. I don't know if you've seen this, and I'm forgetting the exact name. I think it's called Ocean Gate. Have you seen this project?
Yes. Oh, where they have the scoopers, the nets, the thing that goes out and it collects it all. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how much they've collected. And a lot of the plastic that they've collected actually is from rivers. It's from towns that don't have like good recycling programs or any recycling programs, and or even any real good garbage programs. There's parts of the world they just throw their garbage like into ravines, and that washes into the ocean, and there's like just so much plastic. It's just crazy. So you can help promote change by voting with your dollar, and voting with your dollar by buying things that are more sustainable.
Yeah.
Speaking of ripple effects and feeling good, this is part of the key aspects of voting with your dollar. You can align with your values, which ultimately makes you feel better on a day-to-day basis. And it can have a major ripple effect in your personal life, and in other aspects you might not be totally obvious where that plays out. But when we feel good in our lives, there's a lot of different ripple effects that can happen. Yeah, it's a good question. Wondering what state is leading this and who's doing a good job. I'd like to know. Let me go back here for a second. Eileen says the medical cannabis program in Connecticut is poor on environmental impact in all areas, including energy consumption and plastic packaging. But the worst are the single-use disposable vape devices. What are your thoughts about that, Candace?
I would agree. That's becoming a larger and larger portion of the sales that we're doing, just for the convenience factor. People are getting kind of tired of like losing the vape batteries and like having to recharge them, and like more and more people are just moving towards those disposables. And so I would agree. And I think they're very hard to actually dispose of and like recycle at all, because of like the multi-complex like fashion like that they are. So I would agree, and it's almost like an electronic waste, and so it's probably very costly to actually destroy that waste too. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Very
Shout out to anybody that's doing that work out there that's like trying to figure out solutions. And again,
we'll talk about one brand later that actually is committed to that.
Oh, exciting. I can't wait to hear more about that. Okay, so we talked a lot about values. Really hitting that home. Values. Okay, so how do you figure out what your values are? You're like, I'm a good person, but like, how do I figure that out? So reflecting on your life experiences, really like starting off with like thinking about significant moments or experiences in your life when you felt particularly happy or fulfilled or proud. Like these are instances that often align with your core values. Key influencers and key influences. Considering the people who have had a major impact on your life, both positively and negatively. Family, friends, mentors, or even public figures can really shape your values. So this is actually a really good segue to taking note of what angers or upsets you. Paying attention to issues or behaviors that provoke strong emotions in you. Social justice, environmental concerns, or unethical business practices can really be indicators of your values as well. So, for example, Candace and I just kind of sat here for a few minutes. I didn't feel like really angry per se, but it's like it is very concerning that like the more and more products are created out there, the more plastic, the more, I don't even know totally understand this, but like if even all the stuff that gets put into the recycling bins ends up in recycling. I hear like rumors about how we do all this sorting and then it actually doesn't go to where we think it's going. because China's not buying our plastic anymore or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
um, but really take note about, what is upsetting to you, to really kind of hone in on what it is that you want to do when it comes to your purchasing. Also, things to consider: your interests. So think about the activities and interests that you are naturally drawn to. Your hobbies and passions often align with your values. For example, if you really, really love nature or outdoor activities, environmental conservation may be a key value. So you can ask yourself questions like, what matters most to you in life? What principles or beliefs guide your decisions? What do you want to achieve or leave as a legacy? If for those who do have children, I do not, but like for those you, what kind of world do you want to leave your children and your grandchildren in? Like, think about them if it's hard to think about yourself, and how you might make an impact, and how you're like, well, I'm not going to be here that much longer, so whatever. It's like, it's about helping the planet be here for longer, and also enjoying your time here while you're here. So, what are the causes or issues you're most passionate about, and what qualities or behaviors do you admire in others? Really important to kind of ponder. So you can prioritize your values. You can write them down on a list. If you're an audio kind of person, like talk to your phone, talk it out. I love talking and driving and like just thinking about things. And really consider which values are most essential to your well-being, happiness, and fulfillment. So you write your values down, create your values list. And it's really important that you have a clear, concise list of your core values that you can refer to in making your decisions. Not like, if you want to carry around the list in your pocket while you're like going to Target or like whatever, as you're thinking about things. Again, this isn't meant to be like fatiguing. This is meant to provoke inspiration about like how you can decide things differently. Are you buying things that are made in the United States? Or you're just buying whatever? Are you buying local from your farmer's market? Or you're just kind of going to your grocery store and buying whatever? It's like, these are actually little tiny changes that you could make if you wanted to, if it aligned with your values. So you can test your values. Put your values to the test in various situations, including your consumer choices, and ask yourself if a particular purchase aligns with your core values or contradicts them. Another example of this is organic. If you like to buy organic, you want no pesticides going in your body, going out of your way to buy organic and look for that stamp. Now, in cannabis, they can't really say organic because it's like, it's got to be approved by the federal government, and organic is I don't know how they got this. They take the word organic and they can't use it anywhere else legally. But I'm curious about that. Can you tell us about organic, or how people would know if a product was organic?
Yeah, so actually, like you're right, because it's organic as a federal classification, and cannabis is like Schedule 1 drug. It can't have that classification, but the states can actually create their own kind of like um, their own classification that has that kind of similar, standard. And so in California, they have like an OCal certification within the state that they just recently, I think in like the last 2 years, finally finished the process for. So like some brands can have that OCal certification. And so like when we get to like the slides and we talk about some brands to support in California, you'll see some that have earned that OCal certification, which is funny because it's actually much harder to actually get than the actual federal organic certification, because they actually allow for some level of pesticides, because the federal certification understands that there's some pesticides that will blow off in the wind and will be like contaminated in the water and the soil from like other farms, because you can't control what other farms do. But in California, they don't allow for that same amount of like wiggle room from like other farmers. It's a 0% like threshold that they give you. So like in California, some brands that used to use like strawberries or blueberries, that were grown in California, can't do that anymore because they would have some pesticides in it. So they had to like get blueberries and strawberries from like France and Canada. because our standards are so much stricter than like the federal organic standards and like even our testing
Wow.
results. Yeah. So
Wow.
the OCal in California is the same
Oh,
thing.
cow.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. In California in general, I feel like is more strict about a lot of different
Yeah.
things. You have to put like cancer warnings on things and all kinds of other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. We like to make
Um,
laws.
you like to make laws
Yeah. In California.
in California, yeah. So, yeah, so how to figure out what your values are, reviewing and revising. You can always change it up if you're like, this year, maybe your New Year's resolution or New Year's intention, as I like to call it, is like, I'm going to try to buy more local. Like, just make one simple change in your purchasing behavior in regards to that. Or maybe you're like, I'm just going to try to buy as organic as possible. Or I'm going to just try to buy women-owned brands. I mean, good luck with that out in the world. There's a lot, and it's like, how do you know if something is a woman-owned brand? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in the cannabis space in just a few. So you can also seek external input, asking friends, family, your therapist can provide valuable insights into your values by observing your behaviors and listening to your thoughts if you're like, want to talk it out. Engaging in self-reflection, journaling, and mindful practices can help you delve deeper into your values and gain clarity on what truly matters to you. And really, this is so important. I see people all the time making choices based on what other people think, but really remember that your values are personal and that they may differ from others. And it's really okay to have a unique set of values that reflect who you are and what you stand for. So by understanding your values, you can make more informed decisions, including how you spend your money and support businesses that align with your principles and beliefs. I want to also add here, we talk about money and your dollar and stuff, but what's also voting with your dollar is voting with your likes and your comments and your follows, or your unfollows and your unlikes, or your comments about how something is not working for you. This is another way to vote with your support around something. So if you do like something and you do want to be more engaged, follow these types of businesses on social media and show them your support and stay in touch with them, and unfollow businesses that you're like, you know what, I'm done hearing from Starbucks or whatever it is. I'm going to buy from my local woman queer owned shop, So we talked a lot about values. We talked a lot about consumerism, making choices, but let's talk about voting with your cannabis dollars. So when choosing ethical cannabis brands, things that you can consider. We talked about organic practices. Some brands use organic nutrients. They don't use pesticides. They avoid synthetic fertilizers. Candace is like all knowing. I feel like when it comes to California brands, she's like super OG and can really share more about this with us. Environmental efforts, brands that use sustainable soil, recycled packaging, have low carbon footprint, and they plant trees. I feel like a lot of companies and brands in cannabis, if they're doing these things, they are, in my opinion, a little bit more outward about it. They want you to know what they're doing. It really does set them apart. So social responsibility, some brands are aware of the historical injustices in the cannabis industry and openly support it by giving a percentage of their proceeds back to the communities disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. That's really important work. We're all enjoying our lives, enjoying our joints, enjoying our tinctures, because of the hard work of the people who went to prison. And of course, the growers who risk their lives and some still risking their lives and their livelihoods in order to get people really good medicine. So, those people who are giving back, we want to look out for those. And trying to figure out who owns this company, who gets the dollars that I am, I'm buying this joint from or this gram from or whatever. Is it BIPOC owned? Is it woman owned? Is it LGBTQIA owned? And again, I'm curious about this actually, Candace. Like, how if someone was going to go into a dispensary and they wanted to support a BIPOC owned brand, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they could definitely ask the bud tenders, what brands are, BIPOC owned, and then the bud tenders could tell them, what brands they currently own or which brands are currently carried, are owned by BIPOC people, and they could tell because it's going to be different in every, dispensary, what they have, what is currently in stock. Is going to definitely be different, and hopefully, that staff is up to date on like, because most staff is being trained, on like a weekly, monthly basis, by the brands, and they know the brand story and who's where they're grown and who owns them. So they should be up to date with that kind of information because that really is what like you talked about, what sets them apart from everybody else. And so, if they are a minority owned, if that is their story, they're usually educating us on that. So they should be, up to date on that information.
Yeah. So if you're curious about if a brand, who the woman-owned brands are, if you want to support queer-owned brands, you want to support BIPOC-owned brands, ask your bud tender. Hopefully they know. Hopefully they're up to date about it. I've always really wanted to see some of these things like highlighted, and not just during Women's Month and not just during Black History Month or whatever. It's like, how do we know that these things are where our dollars are going with these particular groups of folks, because I would love to support more of them.
And sometimes a good Google search can help you too. Sometimes I need to do that too. Like, what are the women owned brands in cannabis? What are the Black owned brands in cannabis? What are the Black women owned brands in cannabis, to get a good list. But it's never really completely comprehensive. You never get a good complete listing, but it'll give you sometimes a list of maybe like 10 or 12 of them. But
yeah, the Google is definitely helpful, and there's a lot of brands coming and going. It's hard out there, so that's why we got to do our due diligence.
Support the good ones. Exactly,
yeah.
the ones we need to stick around.
Yeah. So so Candace came up with a handful of brands that she wanted to share with us, and I'm excited to learn more about them.
Yeah.
We're kicking things off with Legion of Bloom.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about Legion of Bloom. If people want to look on our YouTube page, they can actually look back about 2 years ago to a webinar I did with Legion of Bloom on leaders of sustainability. So Legion of Bloom is the company that I mentioned earlier that's actually on a continuous hunt to always find ways that they can make their process more environmentally friendly, that they can cut back on the amount of resources that they're using, whether it's in their cultivation process, whether it's in their manufacturing process, whether it's in their packaging process, whether it's in the way, finding ways that they can maybe work with the regulators to find a way to actually, recycle their products. I mean, even like when I was talking to him, like even things that people don't think about. When they have like rolls of stickers, there's the tape that the stickers are on. One side is like a little bit more glossy and waxy than the other is like the roll paper. That's one of the things that's actually the hardest to recycle because one side is waxed and the other isn't. And he was talking about how he's, spent all this time trying to find somebody that would actually recycle this paper because they have rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of it, and how they actually packaged their flour in like a paper kind of mylar bag that is actually compostable. They try to make an effort to make sure that every packaging product that they have their product in is actually compostable or recyclable. So they make large efforts to be, the leader in sustainable packaging in the cannabis industry in California, which is really cool. And then on top of that, they also donate a portion of their sales from two different lines that they have. They have a Monarch line, and then they give a portion of those proceeds to help the California Association of Resource Conservation District, which helps preserve the habitat for the monarch butterfly, which is really cool. And then they also have a second product, which is like a sauce cart, and it also has like a PAX pod, which I think PAX are like nationwide now, so most people are probably familiar with that is. So that the proceeds of that, they give portion of that to help replant trees in areas that were affected by the wildfires. And they work with a really cool nonprofit called One Tree Planted that Glass House has actually done some work with too, which actually goes and they go actually plant trees in these affected wildfire areas. So two really cool nonprofits that this group works with. So definitely love Legion of Bloom, and that's one of the good companies as far as like vapes that I think that people should be supporting this company, and buying their product is putting money in like a good place for sure.
That is so cool. I mean, so it takes owners who are like conscious about what they're doing, and also, some of the choices people make, they make, yes, out of convenience, because it is more expensive sometimes to like figure out how to do X, Y, and Z, or maybe buy something that costs 2 more cents per box or something, but then multiply that by 10,000, and it's like, it is a lot of money. So I really do appreciate the business owners and the people behind the scenes really like putting their money into sustainability, especially cannabis, and giving back like wherever they can. So that's really cool. I like learning that about Region of Bloom.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Reform.
Yeah. So Reform is a new brand that just recently launched. It's a brand that is owned by Weldon Angelos. And so he was actually, he served 14 years, I believe, 13 years of his 55-year sentence. So he's another one, just like Corvain Cooper, who's like with 40 tons, which I believe we're going to talk about later, which is another incredible brand, like in that social justice kind of world. So he was sentenced to 55 years for just selling over $900 for the cannabis. He was kind of persecuted because he's of that like hip hop culture. He lived in like Utah, so he kind of had the book thrown at him. He was released, and instead of just kind of like turning around and like just like living his life, he's dedicated towards like helping other people that are incarcerated for nonviolent cannabis offenses. And like what he really felt was like when he was in jail, they basically feed you enough to keep you alive, but not to thrive. And so a lot of the work that he does is to actually provide money to people that are in jail to help keep them like thriving and living and like feeding themselves to be able to stay healthy. And so he has this line Reform, and so some of the money goes into the Weldon Project, which he helps bring attention and to release people that are in jail for cannabis offenses, and then also helps put money on people's books. So another good brand that people should support.
That's amazing and sad and really good to talk about, because there's a lot of people that are still in jail, about 40,000 people who are in jail right now for cannabis crimes. But then here we are like smoking our bongs and, buying, trying to talk about, well, how packaging sustainability, you know what I mean? And we still have people who are in prison. So really being more knowledgeable and mindful about these companies, these brands, and the people behind them, and how we can support them.
Yeah, and that some of these guys are getting out and they're trying to use the cannabis industry and to benefit some of these guys that are still in, and like, okay, I'm going to get out and I'm going to get in the industry and then try to make some money to help you guys that are still in get out, which is, pretty smart, and let's help them use this as a tool to help those guys. So, and to bring attention to them.
So is this a cannabis brand, or it's okay.
Yeah.
And the part of the proceeds go back to people who are in prison. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this brand. I was like, this is beautiful.
I love chemistry too. Chemistry is amazing. Chemistry is really cool too because it was started by a PhD who has a background in organic chemistry. So everything, is done, in the cleanest, purest way. They're based up in Northern California. It's all about sustainably regenerative grown cannabis, working with legacy Northern California farmers. A lot of the farmers up north have obviously, had a hard time, in the cannabis industry since Prop 64 and haven't been able to, build their own brands and, really kind of make it. And so luckily, there's been a lot of these medicinal brands that have come, into the market. We'll talk about another one in a minute here too, that have really kind of just started to work with these brands and kind of just like lift them up and, take their fine quality, cannabis that they're growing it and make it into these high quality cannabis products. So yeah, they just make really high quality, great products. And they're also a big supporter of SB 34 programs. So they donate a lot of cannabis all across the state. This chemistry brand here actually is a supporter of a real compassion program that we support here at the pharmacy. And so it's a traumatic brain injury support group. So we have like veterans and people that are victims of like violent crimes who were like, we even have people that like left dispensaries like in Los Angeles and were like violently at like illegal dispensaries and that were violently attacked and robbed by people and like got brain injuries and stuff. And so, they're part of this group and they come and they have like a support group because a lot of people that have brain injuries have trouble like controlling their emotions and they have like just a lot of issues afterwards. And so they talk and they support each other and they learn coping skills and then they all get donations from chemistry. So it's really great. So they're just a wonderful group of people. So they're all about, they're single origin too, which is really great. So like all of their tinctures, are like it's from like actual, cultivars, like the ACDC or whatever it is. They have sustainable practices. They're small batch. It's all craft cannabis. It's all sun grown and it's all full spectrum. So really great people too. So this is like one of those brands, small team too, that it's a good company that you want to support.
That's awesome. I love that you guys are doing that too. It's like, yeah, it's not just about smoking weed and getting high. It's like healing. These
Yeah.
are cannabis is about healing too, and has a lot of medicinal properties and can really be so helpful for all kinds of ailments.
Yeah. I love working with these people. They're great. And so kind of like similar in these chemistry Coastal Sun, they work together very often too. Coastal Sun is another one of these really good guys that work with these Northern California farmers. What they do is they actually kind of are like they take all these Northern California farmers cannabis and they get it out to all the dispensaries. So I guess they're kind of like a distributor almost. So they take all the smaller farmers cannabis and then they package it and they get it out to all the farms and they make sure that they highlight all the different farms. And so this, on the side of the package, it would talk about the farm and where it's grown. And on their website, you can learn about all the farms too. So it's really kind of like helping these small communities survive and these families stay on their farms that they've been on for like generations. And like I talked about before too, they were actually the first to receive their OCal certification. And they also have the Enviro Organic certification, paving the way for the new generation of innovators and people to get like these new certifications and stuff. So, and what's really cool too is that there used to be this farm called Wham that some people may be familiar with, but it was like one of the first medical marijuana farms back in like the 1990s. And it was like a hospice where like really sick, like people that had like AIDS and cancer would like go to like pass away, like, and like Valerie Corral would like actually like give them cannabis and help them pass away peacefully. And the DEA actually came and like raided the farm in the 90s, like after Prop 215 passed, and like patients actually came and like blocked the road and like wouldn't let the DEA come onto the property with like their tanks and their trucks and their not a tank, but a SWAT vehicle, because they were going to come and like pull the plants out of the ground and take the medicine away. And the patients came and like blocked the path and stuff like that. And like it was a big standoff. And like they called like the DEA headquarters and it was like a big deal. And actually when it came down to it, like, there all these calls were made and they were like, these guys are true patients and those people are dying and there's like no money exchanged. And the federal government, actually, the attorney general, I think, told them to back off and leave them alone. And that was like the first time ever they actually told like the DEA, like leave them alone. It was pretty like amazing. So they were like the only farm that was actually like protected and was like left alone. And so like they actually took over that farm. So like they were like they grew from the first and only like true medical marijuana farm that survived, through like the rampages of the early 215 medical marijuana wars. And again, they also have a big, robust SB34 program. They give a lot of cannabis away to these like medical marijuana programs where we can give free cannabis away in California. And they also have a blueberry farm, and they produce yummy, delicious blueberries that they sell at high-end supermarkets in called Erewhon in Beverly Hills.
Wow, Erewhon blueberries.
So if you ever go to Erewhon and buy like $25 blueberries, they were grown at Coastal Suns Farm. So
Wow. Again, can you just like briefly explain SB34 programs for those who don't know?
yeah. So Senate Bill 34. So under the new under the new Prop 64 laws, like the adult use laws, they actually made it so that no free cannabis. That they made it so that you weren't allowed to give away free cannabis anymore because the state wants like all their tax money, right? They made it illegal to give away free cannabis, and like historically, Prop 215 was about giving free cannabis to people and helping people. So then after they made it illegal to give away free cannabis, then, all the patients came forward and we passed this law called SB 34, which made it legal again for us to give away free cannabis, but they had to be a patient. So people have to get their medical marijuana recommendation. And like, there's some things that dispensaries have to do, like on our end, as far as like, records and like the system, and like there's like a whole thing that dispensaries have to do with like records with like the donations and stuff, but it made so that we can give free donations again, which is really cool.
That
So
is
it
really
restored our right to give away free donations to patients.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. And that story is amazing, and I love hearing that like these legacy brands are, there's still some of them around that really help to push and pave the way.
Yeah. And Kikoko is really cool too. It's women owned. They've been around for a good period of time, like probably 5 or 6 years ago, or for 5 or 6 years now. It's women owned, like I said, started by two friends. After one of them had a battle with cancer. They're all about lifting up women and celebrating women. I love their 6 unbreakable rules of doing business. I'll just read them just real quickly. Number 1 is no assholes. I love it. Number 2 is equality for women and all. Number 3, unrelenting quality. Number 4, spirit of generosity. Number 5, when it all goes wrong, laugh. And number 6, make an impact. And if you want to go to their website, you can read like the little statement for all of that. But I mean, they really do live by those rules. They really are very much about like being kind, being, treating everyone with equality, and, being all about quality, and like being, generous, and just, not taking anything too seriously, and just giving back. So a great brand that you want to support. And they make great things that are outside the box, like teas and stuff, and mints. So great.
What's your favorite tea?
I like the sensuality is really good. I actually don't like tea, but their tea is really good. I actually like tea, and I don't even like tea.
That's awesome.
That's pretty good. Just to taste it like that's pretty good.
That is cool. Yeah, those women are awesome. Shout out to Kikoko. And
then you have put something there too.
What's that?
And then you put something too that oh no, I actually probably put that. And they give to Last Prisoner Project.
They do. Yep, they do. Queen Mary. I actually got to meet the founder in New York in April. I went to New York City.
Tiana.
Yep, and her business is being showcased at MJ Unpacked, and I love the brand. It's so cool. So let's hear about it.
Yeah, she is a force to be reckoned with. She is a one-woman machine. She gets all over. So she's amazing. She's this is a woman-owned brand, a social equity brand. She's a small business owner. I love telling her story because, and we actually did a webinar with her. I call it a social equity success story because she started this whole cannabis brand, everything like from like $0 pretty much. She had an idea and a dream and a vision of doing something different, and she went in there with like an idea and she won a social equity grant and she got $10,000 and she got, help and assistance, through being a social equity applicant. And she's built her brand up from getting that $10,000 grant and just, putting, her own sweat equity into it. And, from that, I think she's hired like one person and then she's gotten herself into like 2 or 3 other states from that. So, everyone thinks that they need to have like $1 million to have a cannabis company. And she's done it all by herself with like starting from nothing, just putting in a bunch of hard work and just being a go-getter, and she's, an African American woman, doing it all by herself, and just being everywhere and saying yes to everything and just working really hard, and as you can see, she's working with all these nonprofits. She's doing the Last Prisoner Project. She's in the Minority Cannabis Business Associations and Minority for Medical Marijuana, and she's working, at the Downtown Women's Center, which is really cool. And then she's also working with some kind of like non-traditional groups too that you wouldn't really like think want to be like associated with cannabis, like the Upward Bound House and the Good Shepherd Center and Start Your Recovery, which are like drug addiction and recovery centers. So, she's working with people like that, traditionally wouldn't be like in partnerships with cannabis. So yeah, she's just on fire and I love her, and like I said, super small, woman owned business, and so when you're buying her product, you know exactly where, the money's going. So, and she makes really cool products that have THCV in them, which, cannabinoids affect us differently, but for some people can give you an uplifting effect, energizing, even can be appetite suppressing, and give you some like focus and, you know, great products.
Queen Mary.
Yeah.
Buy her stuff.
Yeah. And it's cool because she has a
Kiva.
regimen too. So she has like a gummy you eat in the morning, one that's meant for like midday, or I think the boost is midday, or maybe the
Oh,
boost.
nice.
Yeah, I think the tincture is actually the morning, and then there's a midday gummy, and then there's a gummy that's made for nighttime. So it's like a purposeful like routine, which is pretty cool. No other brand kind of has like that routine,
That
like
is cool.
that's cool, right?
Yeah, that's really cool because I mean, the morning is very different than the afternoon, is very
Yeah,
different than the evening, and you're looking
yeah,
for different vibes. So I like the consistency and being able to like rely on a brand.
yeah. And then Kiva is also very cool, and that is available in many states. So, people watching from all over can find this. It's also one of the biggest compassion providers here in California, possibly in other states. Here in California, they donated over 80,000 units to the SB34 program. So, pretty much like if any of their units has any kind of defect, like it tested under like their standard amount, it's not perfectly square, anything like that, they kick it into SB34, and so it gets donated to patients. So like a lot of time, like here in our dispensaries, we serve like 150 people a month for SB34. And so some months it's hard for me to get donations. I know I can always rely on Kiva. They always have stuff for me, so it's wonderful. So yeah, they do a lot of great work, and they donate to a lot of nonprofits and stuff too. So it's a great company.
Looks like, I mean, by the way this looks, that packaging could potentially be
Oh yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah, no, I would say like the chocolate bars, I would say so too. That packaging is like a cardboard, probably recyclable cardboard. I didn't even think about putting that on there. And
Mhm.
their tins too are like aluminum. Yeah, they're tins. And I know in a lot of states too, they're moving away from the tins just to like the bags, which may be a little probably use less resources as well. They're
That's
very innovative, so I would probably imagine that they are probably moving to like more and more sustainable packaging.
cool.
Yeah.
Kiva.
Yeah. Yeah. And Papa and Barkley, of course, great company, created by Guy Rocourt and Adam Grossman to help Adam's father treat a serious medical condition, got him out of hospice and back to home. It's very thoughtfully sourced using sun-grown cannabis, Northern California legacy farmers. Um, they use solventless cannabis, so no chemical extraction. They also support SB34 programs and give a lot of jobs to legacy cannabis farmers and people living like up north. They're based up like in Eureka, where they could definitely move their company to like San Francisco or, down south, and probably, be a little bit closer to the rest of the cannabis industry. But they know that it's so important to keep those jobs up there in Eureka, and like they keep so many people employed up there that if they move their company down south, and I've had this conversation with them, they know how much that would impact that community. So they stay up there, which is so important for that group of people. So, but they're just such a great group of people, and they just support anything that you ask them for. Like you want to do like a senior education, they'll support you. You want to do this community thing, that community thing, they're always there to support you. Like they'll say yes to anything. They're just like they get it. They get it. They're all about patience, all about education. They're just a really good group of people. Like they're just like one of the good guys in the industry.
Love that. I found myself curious because I've known about Papa and Barkley for a long time, but I was like, okay, wait, is the owner Barkley and this is for his papa? Is that how the name got started? Like, what's the name about?
Yeah. So it's Papa is Adam's dad, and then Barkley was his dad's dog.
Oh, that's so
So
cute.
because it was created for his dad, and to help his dad, so it's his dad and his dad's dog.
That is adorable. Okay. And also I love the bamboo caps that they use.
Hmm.
You know, bamboo is sustainable. It can grow really quickly and easily. That's why it is sustainable. Um, and and they're using glass, which is recyclable. I don't know about all their products, but I love that they're tapping into that as well.
Right. Yeah. And moving on to Glass House Brands is where I work, of course. So like at the farm, what I love about the farm and going there and talking about it is, we don't use any pesticides, which I think is really cool. We use these little satchels with beneficial bugs in them. So the bugs just go and eat like the pests that we don't want. And so of course we don't use any pesticides, and we reuse any resources that we can. So like we have these really cool like flood table system where the water comes up, and the plants then absorb anything that they need, and then the water recedes back down, and then it gets cleaned and filtered, and then we can like reuse it, and we even recapture like the CO2 from the generators, and then we feed that back to the plants. And then even like any used soil that we're done with, then we put that out in like our farm, like the outside area, and we actually grow like strawberries and like watermelons and corn and stuff like that. And then we donate that to like local food banks and stuff. Or I don't know if we're doing it this season, but we did it last season. I have to check. um, but we do a lot of different things like that at the farm. We also have like a green flower 1-for-1 program where we do where it's like online training, and we donate it to our veterans. Of course, we have like our SB34 program. We have a social justice partnership with the Weldon Project. And we also have Luke Scarmazzo working with us, and he has like a whole program that he's working. His whole job is just to kind of work on, I forget what he's calling it, but he's working on just getting more attention for the prisoners that are still incarcerated, and a bunch of different things on the social justice front. Um, we support a lot of education, and we do this webinar series. My job pretty much is just to lead all these different like ways that we can give back. So we just do a bunch of different things, any way that we can really get involved in the community. So, I like to think that, we are kind of like leaders in this front. There's not very many companies that have like somebody like full time is, the job is like community outreach and like figuring out ways that we can give back. This month we're doing like a big drive, and that's the next slide here. If you want to go
Oh
to,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh
So
wait, sorry.
timeless.
Sorry,
Yeah.
wait. I know that there was a
Yeah, and it's the same thing. So with
Okay.
Timeless, and Timeless is a really good brand too. They always are trying to do fundraisers with nonprofits and charitable causes. So we're working with them to do a fundraiser. Every SKU that we sell this month, they're going to donate $1 to disabled veterans, and we're doing canned food donation drive at all of our stores. And then on the 15th, we're going to actually do like a turkey. Um, we're like you know all the veterans are like packing like the bags and stuff with all the fixings for like the turkey dinners and stuff like that. So we're loading the cars with all the turkeys and all the dinners and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing that whole drive thing. So we just love being involved in all those kind of drives and donations and stuff like that. Um so yeah, just giving back like wherever we can, and um part of lots of like nonprofits and stuff all throughout the state. So, it's important as a company, I think, to be socially responsible, be tied into your community, and to be giving back.
I love that you're doing that and that you're spearheading stuff like this. And I'm really grateful for the people who are helping you to make this happen. Like, I know it takes a village, and um, having the support of your company is so awesome. So shout out to them for supporting you.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to share a couple of social impact resources. Now, this is like not a whole long list, but this is just a few things. If you're like wondering kind of where to get some more information, in no particular order. Leafly has a whole social impact part of their navigation, which you click on it and you can learn more about brands that you want to support, or you may want to support, that are involved in social impact programs or benefit from them. So check that out. Also, something really fun. This is the Ethical Consumers Green Book, and my friend Miss Kindness put this together. It really is, if you don't know about the ethical or the Green Book from like the early 30s, 40s, and 50s, it was created for Black folks to be able to find safe places to go to, as far as like businesses go, businesses that would support them and make them feel welcome. And so the Ethical Consumers Green Book, which was created by Miss Kindness, who is a Black woman, in support of not like copying this per se, but being inspired by the OG version of this, is to really highlight businesses who align with our values.
Mm-hmm.
What are those values? You should check it out. There's a QR code there if you want to take a look at it. Also, I know that they're doing ongoing ads. So if you are in ethical business, or if you think you are, hit them up and see, if it's a good match for you and your work out there in the world.
That's cool. Is it like going to be quarterly or monthly? How often do they plan on publishing?
I believe it is quarterly, and it's also based in location. So last
Oh,
quarter, it was a California guide, and this quarter, it's going to be California and Nevada.
that's cool.
And it's free. So if you see it in a dispensary, or if you know of a dispensary that would like to carry something like this, contact them. But yeah, for MJ Biz, they're going to be distributing it. I'm not sure of the amount of volume, but I want to say 8,000 of them
Cool.
will be distributed. Don't quote me on that. You should go look at the website. Approximately 8,000. The Floret Coalition is really cool. We were a part of this for as long as we possibly could be, and just had to take a little break for a while. But this is awesome. If you are a business or an individual and can contribute more than $50 or more, they hand select organizations around the world, mostly I would say in North America, who could really use a boost. And they've raised over $250,000 over the last couple of years just from having like this coalition of people who are dedicated to having like a minimum of $50 that they are like that they can put a focused effort on. And they've been able to donate at least $10,000 almost every single nonprofit that they've selected. And so cool. It is put together by Broccoli Mag. It's a woman-owned magazine doing really cool stuff.
It's neat.
40 Tons. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, 40 Tons is really cool too. Sort of like Reform, but it's more like a nonprofit. It's like, it was like a nonprofit, I feel like, first, before it was like a brand, but it's also a brand too. So they also have flour as well that you can buy at a dispensary too. But they're also about like reforming, changing laws, bringing attention to the prisoners that are still in behind bars, and like changing the laws to get the laws changed. And I think there's some sort of big legislation or laws that are changing too, and like sentencing reform that's about to come down the pipeline. So all these folks are like hoping that like a bunch of our brothers and sisters are going to be released here down the line pretty soon. But this gentleman here, Corvain Cooper, who's pictured on the right here, was actually incarcerated with Parker Coleman, who's still behind bars. I think still has like 40 years in his sentence. But yeah, unjustly sentenced for long periods of time for, just possession of cannabis, which is just wrong. There's people that, are violent criminals and hurt people and get shorter sentences. So, we need to support brands like this. So, it's a social impact brand. They have, I think it's greenhouse or indoor cannabis that they have. But it's, competitively priced. I think it's like $25-$30, an eighth. So it's affordable for anybody. It's quite good cannabis. It's nice, but yeah, all the funds that they, raise go towards restorative justice, reduce sentences, cannabis legalization and rehabilitation. Last year they did this really cool thing called like a 40 Tons Christmas, and they actually raised money for like the families of the incarcerated, because a lot of these families are like one parent households now, and they don't have a lot of money, to spread around the family. So they bought, the family's presents, and in some cases were able to bring them in, fly them in for the party and stuff. So they're just doing, amazing things, not only for the prisoners, but for their families, and trying to get these guys released and get the laws changed. So that's Corvain on the left, or on the right, sorry. And then that's L'Oreal, and she's the CEO, and she's actually the owner. So it's women owned. And then on the left that's Anthony, and that's actually her husband, and they're great people. And so when you buy from this brand, it's going towards, them, they're the owners, and it also goes towards, their project, their nonprofit, and, everything goes towards that. So great brand.
Great brand.
Yeah.
I heard that they were doing something pretty big at MJ Biz this year in Vegas. And I believe that, again, I don't know all the ins and outs of what's finalized, but I think that they're making like a mock like cell that you can walk into and sort of like be in. And it's just another reminder of like how much freedom we have, and that we often take for granted. And we really need to be supporting these brands that are doing the work and have the relationships that they have, which I think is a really good segue to Last Prisoner Project. They're really dedicated to getting like every last prisoner out of prison who's there for cannabis. I talked earlier about how there's about 40,000 people who are still incarcerated for cannabis crimes, some of them very minor. We heard earlier about somebody that has been in prison or was imprisoned for many, many years for $900 worth of cannabis, and that's nothing. And so, they do a lot of work. They raise money also for people who are still in prison, put money on their cards, try to get them out of prison, help get them legal support, and anything you can donate towards them is a gift and helps get people out of prison. And hopefully in our lifetime we'll see that every last person gets out of prison. for cannabis crimes, nonviolent
Mm-hmm.
cannabis. I didn't put this in here. I just want to do a little shout out to Call the Weed Lady. I'll put a link in the chat here. Call the Weed Lady is a brand, and it was created by, I'm trying to this woman, Evelyn, who was also in prison for a minor cannabis crime. She happened to not even touch the plant, but she happened to I think take a bank deposit and put it into another bank, and then therefore she was a part of it. And
Yeah.
so, I think a lot of times actually the women actually don't get as much support as the men, as I understand it, because, and I've had conversations with the folks at Last Prisoner Project. Men usually have families and moms and sisters and wives who are worried about them and support them and really try to rally around them. And then when a woman goes to prison, she's usually the only parent that was at home at times, and is not getting that kind of support from her family. And so really, it's just really, really important to support this work in general, especially if you see a woman. You can actually write to people who are in prison. And I found one woman who was part of Last Prisoner Project and wrote to her. I think that she was able to get out recently, but really appreciated the letter. And sometimes people are lonely in there, so you can.
Those letters do matter, and especially, around the holidays and stuff. It's very impactful to just take a couple minutes, and send something to somebody. It goes really, really far for them because sometimes they don't get any communication or anything. So,
Yeah,
something that can go really far for people.
100%. Well, 1/11/11. It's good timing. Thank you all so much for joining us, those who joined live and those who are going to be watching later. If you want to get in touch, I put my LinkedIn up there and also all my websites and all my social medias. Find me, follow me, say hi. If this was inspiring at all, let me know how it went for you with checking in on your values. I'll be doing the same. Doing this and putting this together made me really think about my own purchasing and how I need a little, to kick it up a notch and really think that setting an intention for the year instead of trying to be super specific about everything, unless that's your thing, is really how you can make a bigger impact on what aligns with your values and how you want to spend your hard-earned cash, and where.
Yeah. Thank you so much for preparing this presentation, Lisa. You always put, so much thought and, care into these, and they're always so visually appealing. Thank you for being such a great guest speaker for us today.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. This is such an important talk, and thank you so much for all your advocacy and all the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it. And thank you to our audience. I hope that, this information that we shared will, help you give you guys something to think about, and please, think about your core values. And I think, from watching, the slides that I put together, you could definitely tell mine, I'm all about social justice and about patience and sustainability. So it's very interesting, after your presentation and then seeing my slides, it's okay, I could see, where some of mine were. And it gives me, some things to think about as well, and some of our audience's feedback is, they would like to see more things about the environmental side of it. So, that gives me some things to think about as well, in future presentations and how that is something that's, something that you guys care a lot about. But yeah, just very thankful for everybody for being with us today, for you guys being interested in this topic because it is very important, the brands survive if we continue to buy them, so please support those brands that matter, women-owned brands, veteran-owned brands, minority-owned brands. It's so important that we have, those small brands in our industry and that we can have choice, we don't just have those big brands. So it's important what you buy every single day, all the time. It matters. So, thank you again for being with us today. We hope that this information that we've shared will help you provide, will help you become a better informed cannabis consumer, and that the information that we provided will help you find relief. Until next episode, I hope you guys all have a great day and that you stay safe and well. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.